Hello and Assalamu alaikum. Ultrascan Diagnostics. This is the CBCT of the patient that you had requested. The area of interest is the lower right wisdom tooth and the lower left wisdom tooth. The teeth, both the wisdom teeth seem to be impacted. They are mesioangular. Moving on to the panoramic view, on the panoramic view, we can clearly see that the lower right wisdom tooth is mesioangular and the lower left wisdom tooth is also mesioangular. Both have two roots. There is a slight radiolucency associated with the apex of the lower left wisdom. I'm going to move to the transaxial view and show you each wisdom tooth individually. Now this is the start of the wisdom tooth on the lower right hand side. This is 4-8. On the 4-8 we can clearly see that this is the crown structure. This is the root of the 7. As we are moving distally, we can see that the tooth is so far superficial. There is no buccal or lingual cortical coverage. But as we are moving towards the ramus, this is where the ramus starts and this is the pulp chamber. We have a rim of radiolucency. We do not see any ankylosis yet. But as we are moving distally, this is the roots. The roots are placed more lingually. This is the buccal region. This is the lingual fossa is deep. The tooth is, however, very far from the nerve so far. But as we are moving towards the apex, we can see that the nerve will travel up along the ramus. But still, when the roots are very much far away from the inferior alveolar nerve on the lower right hand side. So this is the apex, this is the inferior alveolar nerve, and we can see that it is quite significantly far away from the apex of the lower right wisdom tooth. So this is the axial view. On the axial view, this is the right hand side. This is the one we've been seeing so far. So I'm going to move the tooth. So this is the wisdom tooth. As we are moving inferiorly, it does have a cavity. I'm going to increase and zoom in for your visibility. So this has a cavity. As we're moving down, the tooth is placed lingually. The buccal cortical plate is quite thick. The cancellous bone shows a very radiolucent trabecular pattern, not a very cancellous type of pattern. It does show very minimal cancellous pattern, but the tooth, however, is placed quite lingually. We do not see any major lingual cortical perforations and we don't see any major radiolucencies associated with it. This is the nerve traveling above into the ramus and it is quite far away from the lower right wisdom tooth. This is the lower left wisdom tooth. We can see that it has a cavity as well. As we are moving distally towards the lower left region, we can see that there is cortical coverage over the tooth on the buccal aspect as well as on the lingual aspect. This is the lingual fossa. As we are moving towards the apex, we can see that the tooth is very consistently covered by bone. The cancellous pattern here is also very absent. That means that the cortical plates are thick, but the cancellous pattern is not very discernible. This is the roots of the lower left wisdom tooth. As we are moving distally, the roots, we can see that the nerve is traveling up along the ramus. Here, the inferior alveolar nerve is approximately 1 millimeter away from the apex of the lower left wisdom tooth, and there is a chance of damage while the wisdom tooth is being extracted, but it's not in contact. The inferior alveolar canal does not show any depressions. That means that the root apex is not in direct contact with the canal or either with the nerve. So it is quite safe to perform this surgery, but however, caution needs to be taken. Moving to the axial view, so this is the lower left wisdom tooth. If we move from superficial area down inferiorly, so this is the cavity. We can see that the cavity is quite big, and this tooth is also placed quite lingually. And as we move inferiorly, we see that the apex is slightly close to the inferior alveolar nerve, but we are still safe to remove this tooth. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach to our team. Thank you very much.